What's up guys, Dre with Overland Tundras again, and we are here back in the garage with Dante. We have a 2019 Toyota Tundra. We're going to be installing a bumper, stealth bumper, beautiful bumper. So stay tuned for that. And as you can see, I am actually filming on a new camera that we acquired, which is a GoPro Hero 9. So let us know what you think about the video, the quality, the sound, so we can see what to improve, how to improve it on our trails, on our vlogs, and all those kind of things. So I'm gonna present Dante now so he can talk a little bit about this install.
Hey, this is Dante from McNish Automotive. Today we got a 2019 Toyota Tundra that we'll be installing the stealth bumper on, smittybilt 12K winch, and some factory 55 goodies. Also, we're doing a light bar on it as well. We'll go over the install instructions, tools needed, things to look out for, and give you some tricks along the way to make this install a breeze and get you ready for some trail riding. So we just unboxed everything to make sure we have all the parts to make this install complete. One thing we did notice on the 2019 Tundra that you do have the parking sensors. Some models have them, some models don't. We did get the bumper that has the cutouts. So what we'll be doing is making sure we transfer those to the new bumper. That part, you want to be careful trying to pop them out the bumper. We'll go over that step as well. The tools that's needed for the beginning of this job to take off the bumper, 10 millimeter, 12 millimeter. You can use a socket or a box and wrench. Also, it's good to have maybe a flathead screwdriver so you can pop out the plastic clips. We won't be putting on the splash guards anymore. Those are going away, but still you want to be careful taking things apart. Let's get to it. To begin with, we'll start removing the bottom bumper bolts. It's 12 millimeter on the first two bolts that's on this side. Then you take a 10 millimeter on the one on the side. So we'll remove those now. We removed the bottom bolts for the fender guard right here, and now we're going to remove this last 10 millimeter, and then we'll take this out, and that'll be it. Don't be alarmed that you have to pull on it a little bit, kind of get it out. It's just these clips right here are kind of wedged into the bumper, so you got to give it a little bit of force, but don't be obsessive with it. All right, so now we're gonna unplug the fog lights. And again, since we have the bumper sensors on these, there's a wire harness that runs along the back side. And all we have to do is just unclip that. That pretty much disconnect the sensor itself. We don't have to take it off from here just yet. If you unclipped it from the harness side, on this end, it's kind of tucked away. You can pull everything off and then disconnect it and put it on the other bumper at your workstation. All right, so now we're going to the hidden bolts. Basically behind here you have a crash bar, and you have four 14 millimeter bolts. You can use a box and wrench on this part, or you can use a regular socket, maybe a medium sized one. You have a long one, we use a medium sized one, so we have enough clearance to get in there. We're gonna loosen these up, then after that we'll be able to take this bumper out. All right, so we got the 4 bolts loose on each side, basically the bumper support bolts. One thing I like to do is just leave one in just a couple turns, so when I'm lowering this down, it doesn't just fall over on me. The studs from the factory are very long, so it shouldn't fall, but still it doesn't hurt to just keep one of the bolts maybe about 2 turns in, and then we'll lower everything down. We'll take the 2 bolts off and then slide the bumper off, and you'll see how it goes. To access the sensors, we're gonna remove the crash bar. You got 12mm bolts. You got them at the top, 2 on each side. Once you take those off, the bar just comes up. You can just sit it to the side easily. So, as we were talking about the sensors, they literally sit behind that. Also the wiring runs through. I like to just be careful when I'm taking the wiring out. You don't want to stretch anything or pierce anything either. You unplug the sensors and then they just pretty much slide out. Just gonna unplug this sensor first. Just be real careful. No need to rush it or anything. You just wanna pry gently on it. It's a lot of dirt in behind here, so it makes it a little challenging. So we pop this off and then you can push the sensor in. The sensor comes from the front end, so you just kind of push the tabs down. Again, be gentle because we do have to reuse those. You push them down, there's a spot for it, and it comes out. Prior to installing, you want to make sure whatever accessories that you're going to run on your bumper, you hook them up beforehand. One of the things that is complicated on the install is when you have this on already on the vehicle, you cannot get to any of the hard to access points for mounting the bolts, running lines, or anything like that, power cords. So it's best to do it beforehand. It just makes it much easier. We did a 40-inch series Lightbar that's curved. It did come with hardware we wasn't able to use, some of the hardware that the Lightbar came with, but don't fear because we were able to use the manufacturer's hardware. One thing that we're going to suggest is that whatever bumper you do go with, it's best to go with whatever the manufacturer suggests because it's built for that bumper itself. If you go with a different Lightbar, modification might be necessary, so just go with whatever they recommend. So this Toyota Tundra comes with parking sensors. And we have the bumper that has the parking sensor cut out on there as well. We're gonna install these. One thing that I try to do is keep the left side with the left side and the right side with the right side. Don't mix them up. It's just better to keep that way just in case if you run into any problems. So we're gonna slide these in. It's pretty simple to do. You just go in at an angle. And that's all. Parking sensors, this is the wire harness for it. Don't forget to plug this in. We're at the stage where we're going to install our smittybilt winch. We're upgraded to the Factory 55 Fairlead and also the Factory 55 flat link. For Factory 55 series Fairlead, you're gonna need longer hardware than the bolts that are provided with the winch. We got some that's about 1.5 inches and they pretty much fit perfectly. Right now we're getting ready to test fit the bumper. You do have to remove the tow hooks on the truck before you put the bumper on. This part of the install, we're about to take off the skid plate. We already took off the tow hooks. You need to take off the skid plate so you have enough clearance to mount the bumper. So we're gonna do that now. All right, so we just finished test fitting the bumper. We did notice that we had to move the control box. Now, smittybilt, they give you these brackets. Don't throw them away, because what you can do with these, you basically turn them to the side, and you can mount the control box off to the side so you can have easy enough clearance in order to get to the winch control lead. Now, these are the two brackets that comes on the box itself. There's 4 Phillips head screws. You just unscrew them, and when you unscrew them, you use these brackets, and it gives you a cleaner install as well. And again, it's just easy access from the side. Now that we have everything locked up, we put all the wiring together, so we're pretty much ready to go with the install. This gives you a look behind the bumper to see what we did and how we did it. On this part of the install, one thing that's most commonly forgotten is to put this in. So you definitely want to spool up your winch before you put the bumper on. Allen head 3/16 usually work pretty good. Just snug it up a little bit. You don't have to make it overly tight. On this part of the install, we're gonna mount the bumper to the vehicle. Now for me, I'm working by myself, so I have a hoist. While safety is the number one thing, don't attempt to do this alone unless you have the tools, proper tools to do it. It's best to have a couple of people with you if you're doing it on ground. Get some of the bolts started in. Now the next part, we got to run out wiring. So if you notice, I only have the bolts halfway started. We're gonna run the wires, make sure we have enough room for everything, and then we'll come back and tighten it down. One trick that you can do when trying to trace the wiring back up to you, just pretty much run a piece of twine, a piece of string down to the bottom, and then once you do that, you can just pretty much pull everything up, and it goes where you want it to go. One of the most common upgrades that everyone does usually is the factory 55 flat link. It's a little bit heavier duty and better built than the smittybilt. Nothing against the smittybilt, it's just an upgrade. So at this time, when you want to replace it, you do have to either you cut off the smittybilt one, or you unthread it and rethread it. It's just easy to cut it off since it's already threaded. So we're gonna do that, get this factory 55 installed. All right, so right now it's time to finish bolting the bumper up to where the crash bar plates are. We have 4 bolts over here, 4 bolts on the other side. One thing I like to do is just make sure I kind of raise the bumper up a little bit so I take a lot of the stress off the studs. Make sure you do that and tighten it down. So we got the bumper tightened down. Right now we're gonna mount the skid plate. Everything we're doing from now on is gonna be on the ground. The last thing we gotta do is spool up the winch, hook up our light bar, and then we'll be all set. Right now we're at our final stage. We're gonna spool in our synthetic rope. One thing that I like to do is have the vehicle running, and whenever I'm running the winch, I like to do it in maybe 2 to 3 minute increments. Just let it cool down. The winch does put a load on the battery and the alternator system itself, so don't overdo it.